If you're an AMD stock investor, you're going to want to keep a closer eye on today's episode. We're going to look at some of the bullish and bearish things that have happened in the past few days for AMD and some events that are expected to happen this upcoming week. So let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so first I just want to look at price action, right? AMD was pretty much up roughly 1.8% on the past 5 days and sitting at $217. Now, this is a company now with a market cap of $354 billion. I've mentioned it in a lot of other episodes. While I don't believe the trajectory of a stock always goes on a positive trend, I do foresee AMD having the potential of being a $1 trillion company. So I am bullish in this company in the long term. In the short term, anything can happen, and usually we do get kind of buying opportunities. This is a stock that while I've had a nice position in the sub 100s, even lower than that, I have actually been buying back during this low 200 price point because, again, with everything we have heard in just the past few months, especially with the OpenAI deal, I do see a $1 trillion potential. So those are my overall thoughts. Would love to hear from you. What are you doing with the stock? These recent buys, though, I would say are not anything major compared to my overall position sizing because I did kind of start very early in AMD. Now, the first thing I want to take a closer look at here for AMD is this upcoming week on December 10th. We do have them presenting at Barclays 2025 Global Technology Conference. Now, this past week, they were actually at an event, right? They were at another, if we look at their IR calendar, on December 3rd, they were at UBS 2025. And I've done a few videos on this in this past week, and just too long, don't watch. There wasn't anything new from this event, in my opinion, that investors should have gotten, especially since just about a month ago we did have their earnings and their financial analyst day. So if I was to remember three things from UBS 2025 events that investors should know is, first, they continue to see massive demand for AI. And that's not only going to be beneficial for the GPU market, they also believe it's going to be beneficial for them in the CPU market. So that's the first thing, right? The CPU and GPU market continues to win. The second thing I want to say is Lisa Su, and this one kind of talked a little bit about how the ASIC market, while it's still going to grow, they expect it to be only about 20 to 25% of the overall market. And then the rest is going to be taken by the GPU by GPUs, right? It's not, ASICs is going to have a market, but they're going to continue to expect the GPU to be the overall winner in the ASIC space. And the final thing I would have to say here is this is a company that continues to expect to gain market share in all of its products. Again, all of this was definitely shared during the financial analyst day, so there wasn't, in my opinion, anything new or crucial. They also talked a little bit about pricing because right now we do have kind of a recent uptrend in memory prices. AMD kind of mentioned that they're not worried about that right now as they do have a lot of supply partners and they do have a lot of contracts that can help with a lot of these surges in prices. Now, the second thing that AMD announced was on December 2nd, HPE and AMD expand collaboration to advance open rack scale AI infrastructure. So HPE will be one of the first OEMs to adopt the AMD Helios architecture, an open full-stack AI platform engineered for large-scale AI workloads. Remember, the Helios architecture is the one that's going to be used on the MI450 platform and the anything within that era, right? So the MI450, the MI455, even the MI430, which is expected to be more for sovereign AI and for simulation and high-performance computing. So that's the first thing, right? It's great to see kind of a big OEM player adopting this and going to push forward with it. Then we also see that HPE will leverage purpose-built HPE Juniper networking switches in Helios in collaboration with Broadcom to deliver high bandwidth, low latency connectivity across massive AI clusters. Now, we got a little bit more update on kind of the networking solution that HPE will use. The final thing that I thought was pretty cool with this event is another announcement of sovereign AI. So AMD and HP are actually going to power a supercomputer called Herder, which is going to be based on AMD's 5 MI430X GPUs and next generation AMD EPYC CPUs. Now, this is going to be a supercomputer in Europe, and it's not going to go online until 2027. But good news there, right? You saw adoption of the Helios rack. You saw more information about the networking side, and you see kind of adoption of sovereign AI happening in Europe, even though it might be a little bit up in the future. Now, AMD also has kind of their technical blogs, and there is nothing here that I would say would be revolutionary for the stock. But in just the past few days, there have been some more blogs here, and it just kind of showcases how you can use AMD's products for certain type of AI workloads. And that's what you overall want to see with AMD, right? Increasing that developer ecosystem. And by releasing these blogs, it is something that can help that goal. Right, how to use, for example, MI325 to train certain types of models, how to use certain type of AMD Instinct GPUs to do some form of RAG AI solution or coding agents in high performance computing. So again, none of these would be that crazy moment that should drive a stock price, but it is the overall long-term tailwind that we continue to see AMD increasing the developer ecosystem. Now, before we go any further, if you haven't, make sure to check us out at What the Chip Happened. It's my overall community. I do have last 24 hours of my Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale. Use code CYBER to get 33% off savings, the annual plan. This is the ultimate, in my opinion, the ultimate AI community for serious semiconductor investors and serious AI investors. You get a lot of things here. Check it out at whatthechiphappened.com. Now, let's get back to today's episode. The next thing I want to talk about is AMD at AWS. Now, last week I talked that one of the bullish things that could happen at AWS was if AMD announced that if Amazon announced that they were going to be using AMD GPUs for AI accelerating workloads. Unfortunately, we didn't get that, right? We did not get that at all. But AMD is still one of their big players in the CPU business. So while we didn't get that, it doesn't mean it's never going to happen. But unfortunately, we didn't. I wish we did. I think that would have created this massive excitement for the overall stock. But maybe when we get the MI450, that could be an acceleration of getting more and more hyperscalers. Because remember, AMD still does not have for their Instinct GPUs, we still don't have Amazon, and we still don't have Google. The only ones that we have right now are Microsoft, Meta, Oracle. So it would have been great to see that. Now, AMD also released a blog where they talk about how the enterprise business is still kind of entering into the AI market, and how eventually that's going to be a market that will be a massive tailwind for the AI space. I mean, we've actually heard it from other AI cloud players. I think Nebius and CoreWeave this past week kind of talk a little bit about it, how the enterprise market will eventually be a massive tailwind for AI and AI infrastructure. Now, the overall blog was pretty straightforward. It's like how AMD can win in this with their CPUs, with their GPUs on either the enterprise laptops, either on AI servers. But what I really did enjoy about this blog was this chart right here. They kind of have AI spending in IT markets worldwide between 2024 to 2026 based on Gartner. Now, what I found interesting was AI infrastructure software continues to grow, where it is expected to almost double in 2026 versus 2025. Same with another one that you see massive growth, not a double, but AI optimized servers. Obviously, that's a bullish trend. We kind of expect to see more spending on enterprises with AI solutions. The other one that was interesting is AI PCs by ARM and x86. You expect it to go from 90 million to about 144 million in 2026. And then smartphones is expected to jump by also another $100 million. So a lot of growth expected in kind of both the server sides, but it does seem like the adoption of AI in form of consumer or enterprise work products like smartphones and PCs is also expected to pick up dramatically in 2026, which I do believe is very bullish for companies like Qualcomm, for AMD, obviously, for Intel, and the list goes on and on. Now, final news before we look at some of the recent blogs that I think investors should see, or recent X posts. On December 2nd, AMD announced a little bit more of their FPGA solutions. They designed they announced new solutions into an industrial automation FPGA system. Again, not something that would drive the stock price, but it's great to see AMD continue to innovate in the FPGA space. For AMD, this market on a really, really strong trend is very highly free cash flow positive for them. It has great margins. So for them to continue to develop, they talk about this during their financial analyst day. As long as they develop here, they get some good wins. When the market turns around, it's great accredited for revenue, for earnings per share, and for free cash flow. Now, the next two things I want to talk about are some of the people that I follow on X that might be great semi-analysts or just are great at finding information. Now, all this that I'm going to discuss right now has not been confirmed, but it's just they tend to have a high rate of being right, or kind of sharing what they have. First, NVIDIA. It is reportedly that SK Hynix is expected to delay HBM4 ramp up next year. Now, HBM4 is this is only based on SK Hynix, but the question is, they go various discussion, but it doesn't really seem to see why there's the delay in HBM4. Now, there's two things that can go here, and the first could be bullish and the second is bearish. First, on the bullish side, SK Hynix seems to be a major supplier of NVIDIA. If the delay is only on SK Hynix, but not on maybe the memory players that AMD uses, that could be a great indication or a great way that AMD can actually get a lot of market share if the MI450 comes with competition lagging a bit due to the ramp of HBM4, right? So that's the bullish. If somehow if this is true and AMD has a better supplier than SK Hynix and they aren't delay, that could be extremely bullish for AMD's MI450. Now, the bearish case is if it's not just an SK Hynix issue and all the other players are also delaying HBM4 due to whatever is happening in the ecosystem, that would obviously delay the MI450, as the MI450 is also using HBM4. So it is something to kind of keep a closer eye on. I kind of decide, again, there's always truth within this, but it's not always all the truth. And we have to kind of look into it. And that's why I provided a bullish scenario and a bearish scenario for this. The second thing that we see is supposedly Micron. For those that are not familiar, all the hyperscalers have their own CPUs. Now, there are rumors that Microsoft in-house design 3 nanometer Cobalt 200 CPU is set to replace AMD's and Intel's x86 CPUs on large scale within its own data center. Now, it's showcasing that in the CPU market, you're seeing a lot of competition. Now, I wonder here if the replacement is more on very old x86 CPUs, because remember what we just heard from Lisa Su is she is actually very bullish about the CPU market, and this would be kind of a counter argument to that. So again, those two are not things that are confirmed just yet, but I wanted to bring them up, and not only just bringing them up, I wanted to share my overall thoughts. Regardless, none of this has gave me any changes to AMD stock, and it is something we're going to follow. So take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.